What's up, guys? Welcome back to True Sound Studios. I'm Weezna. So today I'm going to show you guys how I took my drum recording that I've recorded in my living room that started out sounding like this and ended up resulting like this. Super quick overview. So I just recorded kick and snare using the Slate Digital microphone. It wasn't like trying to do a video for them or anything. It just happened to be the mic that I thought would sound good in my living room. My wife was traveling for work, so I could record in there. I set up the mic in a bunch of different spots, recorded a bunch of different close mic for kick and snare, and then also recorded a mono room. You know, I put it behind the couch and in the back of my kitchen area, just trying to capture some good room sound. And so let's get into the project. Let me show you guys, real quickly what it sounded like raw, and then of course, all the different processing that got me to that final result. So first up, just take a listen to this with some context with a piano behind it. Then without the piano. So what I did is I recorded these as I was going to use them as drum samples, but not like the traditional sense where you like sample it with, Slate Trigger or something, and then you load it in. And I just like to take, maybe record 15, 20 of the kick drum, 15, 20 of the snare hits, go in and find the hits that I like, and then just kind of align them into a grid so that I can create this drum sound. So, eventually those drum samples will repeat, but I try to use, at least 6 or 8 of them. So there's some variation, and it sounds like potentially, somebody actually played this. And that's because, I'm not just using the same sample over and over and over. So anyways, let me strip off all of the processing. I am just going to leave a limiter on here just so you guys, so it's a little louder. And then I am going to get rid of all of the processing on the drum bus here. And then this is the parallel compression bus. So essentially our individual tracks over here get bussed to the drums and the parallel compression. And then, I blend these in, and then both of these outputs go to the drums all, where I had just a little final EQ, but then it's gonna make its way to the mix bus. And that's just because that's like, how I'd normally mix a song. So some of this stuff is just in here. But anyways, I got these 2 limiters. They're gonna barely do anything. It's just to get some more volume so we can, play back things properly. So let's start off with the kick drum. So this is going to be just we'll call it the kick out. So this is just in front of the kick drum. And we're going to just have our Shep's Omni channel on here, but I'll bypass that. So let's take a listen to what this sounds like. You can hear the room. It's, it's definitely there. So let me turn this back on. Let me get rid of EQ and compression. That's all I used. I used the preamp, the EQ, and the compression on this. So if we engage the pre, not too much going on there. I do have this thump down here turned on, which kind of helps boost the low end a little bit. So now I added this EQ. This kind of helps bring a little bit more of the actual kick sound together. So you can see it boosting a little high is at, what is this? About 7K, scooping out some 450, really not doing much there. And actually taking out a little 80 Hertz. And then added a compressor. Once again, nothing too crazy. you can hear that compression happening there. And then also the limiter is on here, which I kind of forgot. Then I used a transient designer just to try to, just get a little bit of that big room sound, because we have a separate room mic, and add a little punch to this. This is the close mic, so I don't need that much sustain on this particular track. And then I have a clipper. I really like this clipper for kick and snare. I think it sounds great. Not doing a ton though. So, it is clipping a little bit. It's adding a little saturation, not too much. Then I use this guy, one of my favorite compressors, because I had it from a very, very long time ago, and just essentially trying to get rid of a little bit of that, a little bit of the extra lows, just trying to compress this a little bit more. You probably could even get away without doing this, but in the end, I liked how it came out. So then this is kind of like our final EQ for this particular, this close mic. So just taking a lot of that 250. So if I just bypass this 250. Now I do have to be careful here because, I'm definitely more of like a rock metal drummer. I like my heavy hard hitting kicks, and I'm not trying to do that with this drum. So I wanted a little bit more splatty sounding, a little bit more like, something that's got more boom and sustain to it and not so quick and clicky. So, eventually with some of the other processing, we can get a little closer to what I was looking for. But that particular EQ, careful with that 250 up to 500 scooping. You can get a little rock sounding with that, which is not, the point of this track. And now we're going to get to the room sound for the kick only. And this is one of the reasons I like recording drums like this. Let's take a listen to this with nothing on it. So, sounds like a room. Once again, the Shep's Omni channel, one of a good friend of mine introduced me to this, and I really love this thing now. So you can hear that's where I'm getting all that saturation from now. So that pre, without, with. EQ, compression. Another transient designer here. Not really doing much, just apparently I thought I needed to take a little bit of the room out. The sustain of the room. Not much going on there. You could tailor that to taste. Could probably even get rid of that if you liked it anyways. Compression with a DBX. This is without. Put it back in. It's kind of really blowing out that room. And then a little EQ, not doing too much here, kind of just rolling off some lows and highs. So then if we mix the two together, we get this. Okay, so now for the snare drum. Now, once again, it's kind of like close mic'd, but I really wanted, once again, I didn't want to pick up that crazy attack from getting the microphone, a few inches away from the drum. I'm trying to create more of this, I guess the best word I can describe is splatty sound from the snare, but big and thick and fat. So with this, I have this, once again, this close mic, but the room mic is way further away. It's a really big difference than the kick drum. The kick drum was much closer. So anyways, let's get to the processing on this. So if you guys like this video, click the like button. So we'll do just the top mic first, and this has got some soft tube on there. Plus we got a lot of drive over here, which obviously helps to drive the sound of this. Now a little clipping. I shouldn't say a little. So we do lose a little of that attack by clipping it this much. But once again, this is kind of the sound I was going for. And then finally, just did, I don't know, just a little EQ move here that apparently I thought I needed. So that's really it for that snare sound. And then now we have the room sound for the snare, and now we're back to the Omni channel. Ugh. Sounds pretty gross. Here's the preamp. EQ. Compression. Interesting that worked out, because that doesn't sound good to me. DBX. This is another reason why I will like doing stereo room mics, because it just helps, I don't know, get rid of that nastiness that you hear in a mono room mic for whatever reason. Personal preference. And then I just added an EQ at the very end of this. Man, it's still nasty. It's probably why I had it so low in the mix down here. But anyways, if we blend the two together, we get this though. Without the room. That room might not sound great on its own, but once again, you don't listen to, the song and individually solo the different microphones. So it's one of the things I've learned is when you're trying to build or EQ, compress, process a drum, listen to it in the context of the whole kit, sometimes even put in the rest of the instrumental so you can hear how it all jives together, because by itself, that room mic sounds terrible, but sounds great, in my opinion, mixed together there. So then the hi-hat literally is nothing. I didn't record any hi-hat in the living room, so I just used Session Drummer, just quickly threw this together. Honestly, you could keep or leave that EQ. I mean, it really doesn't, it's not changing anything. So now we're going to go ahead though and take all of these drums that we got and we're going to bus them over to our drum bus. And this is where we're going to start to hear some changes. So this this nice tape saturator, gets a little gritty. Okay, let's take a listen to this. Then we have apparently I wanted more tape, so now we have the soft tube tape. Okay, it's getting there. It's still not a drastic change. Now this limiter, is really, I love this on drums, but the difference in these different settings down here really wildly change things. But let's take a listen to this. So now this is really helping to bring that kick and snare more up front. And then I added some more compression with an SSL. You know, it sounds nice and compressed. Now, I have this parallel compression channel, which you have to, if you're going to put tape on anything, if you're going to put tape on your drum bus, you want your parallel to also have this tape too, because it's going to change the timing slightly and it doesn't sound good. Let me just play you this really quick. So you can kind of hear that, but here's just what the parallel compression sounds like. Over here you can see I'm only sending about, you know, -6.3 to the parallel compression, but I am sending full level of the kick drum, which is why you're hearing that difference there. And then finally, like I was saying before, both of these, I got our drum bus and our parallel compression bus are both being routed to this bus, the drums all bus. And I just added a little EQ. Apparently I needed to get rid of some about 5 to, 1K. Oh yeah. I don't hate it though. I mean, this does make the snare drum sound better. So anyways, now we got our drum processing. Now this is the mix bus. So this is where, everything's coming to if this was a full track. Added SSL again. Kind of starting to get the thunder out of that there. And I'm going to switch over to our original limiter because otherwise it's going to pump too hard now. Then, once again, more tape. So now we have three different flavors of tape. This thing just, you can hear the weight on the low end, which is what is amazing about this Ozone vintage tape. Incredible plugin. And this is kind of like my normal settings. Drive at 13, bias. This is what changes. I'll drive this harder depending on it. And then you can also change this curve of how the low end and high end reacts depending on your track. And then I have this limiter. So really just our low end is really kind of triggering that limiter. Clipping, again, overall clipping. So this one, clip it real good, is my own setting. It's this IRC3 clipping. You just kind of have to pull this down. I don't have these drums crazy loud. Character, you can kind of change this. You can have stereo independence if you wanted, but there's really no stereo elements in this. It's just all mono. So, and then finally, just this limiter. Just doing like 1 dB. And then this limiter here was just while I had all this stuff going and I didn't have all the extra processing to help boost the levels. So once again, with the piano in there, that is how I took these drums, recorded in my living room, and made them sound like this, you know, big fat drum sound. So guys, thanks for watching. Of course, if you guys need your song mixed or mastered, please feel free, reach out, go to tssrecording.com, leave a comment below, find me on Instagram. Also, if you're looking for drums to be recorded, I've been drumming for 24 years now. I got my E-kit back there. I got my real drums. I got more in the attic. I can record drums for you as well. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.